there's this overarching network that doesn't really have respect for nation states. And so nation states are having to battle that, or they don't have to. What is the advice, or how would you structure it? Hi, I'm Mickelle Weber, founder of House of Peregrine. This show is for life abroad and those crafting their life story with intention. I bring you conversations about international finances, meaning-making, relationships, and parenting. I bring on the experts that help you on your journey so that you can connect more deeply with yourself, the people around you, and the place you currently call home. Find out more at houseofperegrine.com, where you can find exclusive guides, products, software, and a community that's waiting to welcome you. Welcome to House of Peregrine.
For myself, this research and the time doing it has been reaffirming of my own life choices, of course, too, but it's also brought to the forefront a lot of the difficulties of living this life because, of course, as we said earlier, digital nomads have been around for forever, and they have been moving around the globe for the past, let's say, 20 years, quite successfully. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty of all the paperwork and all the legalities of how you actually should be doing it, it gets much more complex. I started, a lot of my research was about the policies themselves and the policies that the governments make and why they do this and what makes them tick and why did they think that they needed a digital nomad visa, for example. One of the major outcomes from that research was this typology that I've created that shows that although a lot of the visas are to do more with tourism and seeing digital nomads as tourists, the further we're going with the visas, the more they are of these ones that are more like migration visas and residency permits. In Europe, we have the Portuguese and the Spanish one, for example. So it shows that governments are slowly maturing to the idea that these could be longer term people that they could actually attract to live in their countries, and they could be viewed the same as other skilled migrants. And just because they work or their clients are elsewhere in the world doesn't make it any different. So that, I think, is an encouraging part of it. One of the other parts that I've loved discovering in this is that majority of digital nomad visas are actually open to all nationalities. So they are based on merit rather than your passport. And of course, passport privilege is a huge issue in this world, especially for global talent and youth who could benefit from travel but cannot because their passport is weak. Digital nomad visas are offering kind of a way out of that for a lot of people, provided that they manage to get a remote job somewhere that actually pays enough for them to apply for the visas. So that's been very interesting. But I moved on from the early times when I published already on these nomad visas and stuff, and now I'm working a bit more on the digital nomad actual reception of the visas, because a lot of the visas have really not been used much. There's some of them that have just quietly disappeared from the world in general, and others that have only had a couple of hundred applications, for example, within a matter of years. That is not a successful policy.
Why do you think that is?
The ones that have not been used, they have been, a lot of these visas are surprisingly poorly designed. They seem to be like ad hoc quick solutions to something, or governments even just trying out to see if anyone would apply for this. They modeled after migration visas in a lot of ways, that the application process is similar, that you need to get your criminal background checks, you need to go to an embassy in your home country to apply for it physically and then wait there. Things like this don't work for digital nomads who are on the move, and their passport country might not be a country they've visited in years. And the idea that they could just go back to, let's say you had to fly to US to go to a US embassy and then wait up to 6 months to get this visa might not be a possibility for a lot of people who've already left that part of their life and are living somewhere else and don't even have the financial means to live in a US city for 6 months and rent a short-term accommodation to wait for this visa, things like that. And it's just there's a lot of application processes and a lot of demands, yet they don't offer much. Many of them, the shorter ones, only offer you a chance to stay in that country for that time and then get out again, and they don't actually give you anything. So there are a mismatch of migration policies that are disguised as tourist permits, basically. So this is not very well made.
Yeah. What are your recommendations? If you could design the perfect digital nomad visa? Or let's say, I mean, I think there's a lot of gray zones. So what you've described, and then there's like, if you don't pass the language exam, if you don't, all the way down from immigrant to like from a tourist visa all the way down to an immigration visa. There's gray areas all the way there that seem outdated in today's world. And the paradigm is kind of, like you said, like because of the web, especially, there's this overarching network that doesn't really have respect for nation states. And so nation states are having to battle that, or they don't have to. But so if you could rewrite some part of this based on the current, say we can't get rid of country like borders, what is the advice, or how would you structure it?
Well, I would say, there's this question of legitimacy, right? Like these people don't think a country has a right to tell them when they can come to the country and for how long. Well, that's of course a privilege that not everyone shares, but a lot of people with strong passports and a lot of disposable income certainly do, because they can go to the country as a tourist and stay 3 months, even up to 6 months or whatnot. So why not to work remotely as well? I actually think and advocate for countries to have several different policies, only one of them being digital nomad visa. But I think the problem is currently that they have this one type of policy, which is a blimp in the universe, where there might be one type of remote worker who benefits from it, but they don't harness the whole, we talk about a funnel a lot of the time in this field, like a funnel effect of like people who come in as tourists or workationers and then stay as digital nomads for a little bit longer. And then perhaps they want to move to that country and become taxpayers and contribute to the economy and bring innovation and startup culture and all these human capital effects that remote workers from elsewhere could bring. There should be this funnel. So there should be different types of permits. There should be an easy walk-in tourist permit that also allows you to work. Because currently the majority of countries still ban remote working on a tourist visa. Of course, this is abused everywhere around the world. Most of us work on tourist visas everywhere in the world because it's not punishable as a crime either. But technically it's not allowed. So I'm like, why not just add that one line into your tourist visa and say, you can also do remote work while you're in the country on this visa. This has happened with actually New Zealand, UK being the latest ones earlier this year that brought this out. And I think this is such a simple solution to something. And you're also signaling that you are open to people coming in and with their work and staying for the 3 months or whatever the tourist visa allows them. I also think residency permits should work the same way, that when you have, most countries have residency permits where you tick one of the boxes being the reason that you are applying for residency. And as I said, the majority of them are tied to you getting a local job. So you apply based on you got to come and work there, or based on family reunifications. These are the two most common ways of getting residency somewhere. Why not have a third box that says I am applying based on I have my own work, own job, own firm, own employment that pays me enough to live in your country. But the digital nomad visa, which is something in between, is the most elusive one. And I actually there's a project called Plumia, which is a moonshot mission of safetying a big global insurance agency, for example. I think like they are planning a thing which is called the global, I think it's called Nomad Border Pass, where it's actually more of a paid solution. And I think that might actually in the end be the way to go about it. Because if you want to have a visa or visas for people who want to keep moving continuously between different countries, but not really plan it beforehand, not apply for the visa 6 months beforehand, having as a paid solution might actually be the way to go. Because one of the issues we're having with this midterm kind of stays, like let's say a nomad wants to stay up to 6 months. So it's longer than a tourist. We accept that tourists don't pay taxes because they own in the country for a short time and then they go back. Migrants should pay taxes, right? So then we have this in-betweener who doesn't really live anywhere long enough to be technically a tax resident, although they probably are of their own, citizenship country. Why not have it as a paid solution? So you go in under a certain permit that will be shared among several countries. and you go in, and then on your way out of the country, you say, I've been here now 3.5 months. How much do I owe you? And you pay a fee that is basically in lieu of taxes, that you have been a contributing member to the society in that way too. You don't need to necessarily get anything out of it. Most people, of course, who travel continuously would be very silly not to have an extensive coverage for their healthcare, for example. So I think most people should. There's market-led solutions to all of these things that people use already anyway. So I think that's still missing, but it should be probably a visa that is shared on a regional basis. There could be a European-wide digital nomad visa, for example, that allows you to stay. The current Schengen rule is 90 days. It could be a 6-month visa that allows you to stay within the Schengen zone for that long, on the basis that you have the disposable income to be able to support yourself while you're here, and you don't actually, move. Whereas a lot of the visas, the digital nomad visas now require that you get a permanent apartment. So you get a contract for an apartment for the whole time, and you live only in one place, which is again completely against the idea of nomadism. If as a country you want to have people come into a country, you probably also want to disperse them around the country, and maybe they can go and explore remote regions that don't get much tourism, for example. But you're completely forfeiting this purpose if you make people get a permanent apartment, permanent residence while they're on the visa. So things like that should be let go. Countries should really think about the nomadic part of it if they want to dabble in this. I think there's a question also, do you want to as a country, or would you rather just have the short-term stayers and then open up the possibility of having people migrating to your country as well?
Yeah. And I think that that's a known quantity. Like, people get travelers, they get people backpacking through Europe, they understand tourists. What do they not understand about the nomadic lifestyle that would help them? Because not a lot of, like you said, it's a very small population of people who are living this life permanently. And so what understanding would you bring, both advantages to the country that they could bring and also challenges? So what would you say?
I think the challenge is exactly this, like to do with, so the reason why a nation state system is so strongly trying to defend their borders is that the majority of our lives are now designed so that your state supports you, especially in the European context. This is true that you get your healthcare, you get your social security, we look after each other. And that's based on the fact that we must pay taxes so that this system can survive, right? So I think that's one of the things that countries also, when it comes to highly skilled migration, but also these having longer visas and residence permits for remote workers, countries are very shy of taxing them because they seem to think that there's this competition for global talent, of course. There's a competition for skilled migrants. A lot of countries are bringing up beneficial taxation schemes. Netherlands being one. I was lucky to be on that for the last 2 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed having more of my money go to my pocket rather than to the government. But there should be a limit to that. You shouldn't think that in order to attract these people, you cannot tax them at all.
Okay, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed our show. For the latest insights on living internationally, join us at houseofperegrine.com to find out how you can connect with our community. Let's craft our life story with intention together.